Hello everyone, welcome to Memli Coffee Lab. In today's video, we're going to compare side by side two pepper filters, the Cafec and the Sibarist Fast. We're going to taste side by side those two filters and compare the brewing experience and the taste, of course. This theme of pepper filters was chosen by our Patreon, and this month we are going to deep dive into pepper filters. Both of these filters are well known in the coffee industry for its high quality and unique features, but which one performs better in terms of taste? That's what I'm going to find out today. For the Abaca filters, we have a unique feature of a two-side crepe technique where the fibers and all the kind of filter pass through a rotatory drum and it's air dried, so it's also very sustainable, really good, and very consistent. Another aspect about the Sibarist filter is that every single ingredient they use are traceable. The wood pulp, the hemp fibers, etc., all the different elements can be traced, and they are all made in Barcelona. The result here is that you will often have to grind finer, which will improve your extraction, improve your sweetness, and still have a very nice texture and great overall balance. Enough talking, now let's get to brew. For this test, I'm going to use our classic V60 with our classic recipe using 12 grams of coffee for 200 grams of water at 92 degrees in 4 pours of 50 grams each. I will grind about 100 microns finer, or kind of 1 point or 1 setting finer for the Sibarist than Cafec. I'll be using here our Panama Geisha from Manuel Gonzalez. It's a static cherry process developed by Creativa Coffee, and it has an amazing flavor profile. And we're gonna taste side by side this coffee using the same coffee but different filters. All right, I have previously rinsed my filters and ground my coffee. So for your reference, I ground the geisha for the Cafec at a setting of 8 on my Deeding. So it's kind of medium, medium towards fine, medium, it's a classic medium. And for, all right, 12 grams. And for the Sibarist, I reduce it by just 1 setting, so 7 on the Deeding. And that's more towards fine. As usual, I'm using 12 grams of coffee for 200 grams of water at 92 degrees. Coming back now with some results. We have here 2 minutes 29 with our Abaca filters and 2 minutes 05, 2 minutes 10, slightly shorter with our Sibarist. And we went finer. Let's dive into the taste with some measurement as well later on and come back with some observation and results. First and foremost, there's definitely a difference in aroma intensity. Complexity-wise, it's pretty similar. Very balanced and very soft and smooth on the Cafec. Now, on the Sibarist is much more intense, much more pronounced. So it's also easier to detect those notes. Sometimes when coffees are a little bit tricky to taste, or it's hard for you to kind of detect a flavor note. With the fast filters, because you grind finer, you're able to extract more stuff, more aromatic compounds, and that really shows it through the intensity in the aroma. Now, in terms of taste, what we have is quite similar cup of coffee in terms of profiles. However, there's definitely a difference in intensities. On the Cafec, you have a very balanced cup of coffee where the sweetness and the acidity is well balanced, and you have a slightly more texture in terms of weight, which is different in the density, right? That's really creamy texture, match well those dried fruits, fresh tropical notes, as well as chocolatey notes that you have in this geisha with that really nice creamy mouthfeel. Now, in this Sibarist, you have much more intensity, much more stuff out there. Same dates, rambutan, cocoa finish, but just the volume a little bit up. Maybe that explains why when it's used in a competition setting where you have to call out for notes, it's a little bit easier to taste those notes because it is definitely more intense in flavor. Therefore, you can really perceive those different notes within the coffee. Wonderful. Now, the only thing is that you have a more silkier texture. It's not as smooth, right? It's a 2-minute-05, by the way. I could have done a little bit finer to get slightly more texture maybe. But here I wanted to have like just as a first test to see how those two coffee perform. And we have definitely more sweetness on this one. Brightness is the same. We really have a similar kind of brightness, which is interesting because we went fast here, but finer. And because we went finer, the acidity coupled with the sweetness creates a very nice, marriage here. And here you still have a very soft sweetness with good acidity that match well the flavor notes and a very smooth and milky texture. Which showcasing the aftertaste. On the finish, this is very smooth, very lingering. And this one, a little bit more pronounced, more complex, but a little bit shorter. Now let's measure the TDS, come back with some results, and let the coffee cool down to see how it performs when it's cold. Some result now. We have a very similar result, even though we use different grind sizes, because remember, the fast filter goes faster. We have a TDS of 1.12 and 1.16, so slightly more intense on the Sibarist. Therefore, we have this intensity of flavors as well. In terms of extraction yield, it's pretty similar, 17 and 17.5, so slightly more extraction in the Sibarist, which explains why as it cools down, it still holds those taste. What I'm thinking is that because we are able to grind finer, we are able to create more intensity on flavors, and we know that most of our smell is retronasal and the volatile compounds have a huge effect in our tasting. So that's why we perceive more intensity through the Sibarist fast filter. Which one is the best? Once again, it depends on you. If you like soft, balanced, smooth, and full-bodied cup, I will go for the Cafec. If you like complexity, clarity, slightly more crispiness, I will go for the Sibarist. All in all, they are both good. I use them for different coffees and different purposes. There's some coffees like these geishas or some African coffees where I love the Sibarist, whereas there's other coffees like more our South American coffees or the more chocolatier coffees or coffees where you want to highlight maybe more the texture. Then the Cafec creates a good mix. One thing that we could have done is to grind even finer, but when we grind even finer, we may change the flavor profile, and also it can bring sometimes some astringency, some dryness, just a little bit. So that's why here I just went fine enough, not too fine. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comment which paper filter you prefer, and see you next time for more experiments.